Hi, I'm Michael LeBlanc, and we are in the middle of a presentation today on adding AI to existing phones and cameras in towns and schools and libraries in Connecticut. I brought my buddy Joe Michelli with me today. He's a captain of the Weston Police Department. He's also the emergency management director, and his job is to keep the kids safe in the schools and the town safe as well. He was nice enough to volunteer to do a presentation with us today about how to keep your town and school and city safe.
Education is a large component of developing a comprehensive threat assessment plan and mitigating threats against our schools and municipal buildings. This field is a passion of mine. I truly enjoy speaking about school safety and security, and being able to participate in a conference and event such as this is a great honor and opportunity, because as we sit here, and Michael discussed AI over existing phones and camera systems, we're at the beginning phases of really understanding what the opportunity for AI is in our comprehensive security plans and how to utilize it to leverage best practices to create that envelope of security and reduce costs and expenses in doing so.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. So glad you came. My name is Michael LeBlanc. Our session is building an AI safety system on top of the phones and cameras you already own. This is a very interactive presentation. We hope that you participate. Hopefully I go nice and slow and don't speed through it like I can do on presentations. Please raise your hand if I should slow the hell down. All good. Just a quick background. CCI Voice is our company, but we've been other companies in the past. We were Telspan since 1968. Televerse Communications since 1980, LeBlanc Communications, that's my last name, Michael LeBlanc, since 1993, IP Genie since 2009. A lot of the folks in the state know us as IP Genie because of the phone contract that we have with the Capital Region Council of Governments. And so we are CCI Voice. We have a lot of history. There are 6 employees in our company that have between 41 and 48 years in our company. So we are not startups. Our team today, I'm Michael LeBlanc. Ron Berry is our director of sales. Where'd he go? Ron. Cooper LeBlanc happens to be my son and jack of all technology trades, whip-smart. Also with us today, I have Terry Price. Terry is with Sangoma. Sangoma is the phone software and a lot of the wholesale phone carrier backbone to our phone service. Love that company. Do you want to say a word or two?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. For those of you, Sangoma is not a household name. We've been in the critical communications business for 40 years. We don't have a direct sales force. We sell through strategic partnerships. CCI Voice has been a top 3 North American partner for over 10 years, I believe. What's that? Since 2011. And with that, that's pretty significant in that selling through partners, all of our technology innovation and our roadmap for where the product goes comes from partners like CCI Voice. So they're very significant and very important to our product line and the evolution of where we're going. I also encourage you, as you become a CCI Voice customer, to share your thoughts on the product, where you'd like to see it go, filter that up through the organization, and that comes right back to our organization, and we embed that in the product. So they're a trusted partner, sound partner. So
thank you. At least 15 or 20 of the features that are in our phone service today in the software came from us because customers like you said, we need X, Y, and Z, and we got it done. It takes 6 months or a year sometimes for the feature to happen, and it does. Super exciting. So before we start, what do you hope to walk away with today? Raise your hand. Tell me something that's keeping you up at night. What are the challenges? You know, what's making you feel unsafe as a community, school, or town? Give me some ideas. This is about you. It's not about us. I have plenty of time, people. Give me one thing and I'll move on.
I'm thinking more like how the AI systems are, a more updated AI system that can cover more things like identifying
firearms. Boom, yeah, 100%.
AI systems now, but some of them don't.
Okay, good. Appreciate that. Okay, we'll definitely cover that. Anything else before we move on? Awesome, thank you. When something goes wrong, the reality is you don't go and check the cameras when something happens immediately. You don't log into software. You pick up the phone. Do you agree? You dial 911 or you call your security department. You call somebody. Communication is the first response there. People forget that the phones are still critical. So don't forget that. And most systems today are disconnected. It's very reactive. You only do something when you realize something is wrong. You're not thinking ahead. You're not having the systems proactively help you. They're underutilized, expensive. You own the infrastructure, but it's not working together. It's this silo and that silo and that silo. That's the common problem that we have today in our technology world. What has changed? Well, cameras don't just record anymore. Phones don't just ring, and systems don't need to be replaced. They need to be connected. And that's the message of today is interconnection, integration, make things work together as best you can. You can enhance what you already own. And Joe, you're coming up in a minute. Joe and I would agree, and we use this phrase all the time equals life. The faster you respond to an emergency, the more you're going to save lives. That's the message that you should take away from today. Connected systems together, adding artificial intelligence, you get a faster response to save your students, your townspeople. Joe, please come up. Joe has a very incredible background. He's not just a police officer, he's the captain of the Western Police Department, promoted last year, I believe, year before, 2 years ago. 30-year public safety professional. He is the emergency management director for the town of Weston. When something goes wrong, when you know what hits the fan, he's in charge. All of the police and the life and safety people are depending on, and the town, depend on Joe to tell them what to do. He's in charge of the school, safety and security. He's got a master's in public administration, concentration in public safety. He's got more credentials than I know how to understand, but he's really smart. And Joe, take it away. And by the way, he's here as a favor to us, to help us be safer.
Good morning, everyone. Like Michael just said, when I was offered the opportunity to come here and speak with you all, I jumped at it. School safety and security is a passion of mine. I've been with the Weston Police Department for 20 years now. I've been doing emergency management for about 19 of those. And part of the school safety and security falls under my area of responsibility as the emergency management director and now the executive officer of the police department. I work very closely with technology at the schools and the director of safety and security at the Weston Public Schools. So being here in front of you all is a great honor today, and I hope that you get something out of this. I try to be informal. If you have any questions, by all means, raise your hand. Happy to answer any questions as we go along. Just a quick show of hands for my own edification here. How many are with a school district here locally? Okay. And municipal side, is it IT where the rest of us are from? What? Library? Anyone else? Okay. So everything we talk about here today, layered security measures for the schools, can be applied really anywhere. It could be an office building. It could be at your school district, any building there, your town hall, your library, really anything, any building, any structure, quite frankly, a home. So there are going to be some key takeaways, and looking forward to hearing hopefully what you have to say about this. We will talk about physical threat assessment and layered security. What are the key principles there for that, and applying them, in our schools? All this sounds great, but if we don't go from really the planning phase to implementation and then execution, it really means nothing. So how we start out, and this is great because we're getting an understanding of, I'm doing a quick overview of the layered security principles, but then we're going to really dive deeply into how we can leverage technology and AI and camera systems to become a benefit in this layered security protocol. So we're kind of on the front side of the AI revolution here, and how this applies to safety and security and existing technology platforms. What excited me the most about where we're going in this presentation with the cameras and the AI was you don't have to replace all of your cameras or your servers or everything else. There are opportunities that are very affordable and can layer into what you already have in place for your infrastructure in your video cameras and your monitoring and everything else. So as someone who's responsible for an operating budget, that pulls at my heartstrings there as a department administrator. So fully understanding the municipal budget cycle, I'm sure all of you, we just had our vote last weekend for our town budget. This is an important time of year, and this is a great opportunity where as you're closing out your current budget, going into your next fiscal year, there's really some opportunities here for savings that they all will talk about that really is a tremendous opportunity for your entire municipal government and school district. So I look forward to discussing some of those things with you. Again, our objective, I want you to learn in what's available to us and how we apply these strategies and programs to our municipalities and school districts going forward. Okay. Layered security in schools. Our security programs can't just be one thing. It can't be, oh, we put up a fence around the perimeter of our school district and we're only letting people with a pass into the district. It's so much more than that. And it has to be layered to be successful because there are other components. We can't just rely on AI or bollards at the front entrance or fencing. It needs to be a comprehensive approach to assessing, planning, implementation, and everything else. So the whole thing starts with a structured assessment process. So one of the certifications I hold is through FLETC, the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, and it's a physical threat assessment program. I went through that program. It was an intensive 3-day program where ultimately we actually went to different facilities in the city of Stamford. We went to a school, we went to a synagogue, and we did actual assessments on the building. So when we talk about the physical threat assessment, it's really that systematic evaluation of the facilities. And you'll see there the ISC guidelines, International Security Committee. It's a risk-based approach. We need to understand what our needs are as a school district, as a municipality. The first thing we're going to do is we have to identify our assets. Our assets at the elementary school may be quite different than the assets at the public library or the senior center or even the town hall municipal complex. So we need to understand what our assets are, and then we need to assess what the threats. Again, we can take a generic approach, right? And we can plan for most threats in a similar fashion. But again, when we look at an elementary school, even versus a high school, those threats are quite different. And when you look at locations of the buildings themselves, there may be a different hazard or a different threat there that we need to understand, and how do we mitigate some of those threats. So as we go through all that, we analyze those vulnerabilities, and then from there, once we have it all in front of us, we can recommend layered countermeasures in how to effectively provide that envelope of safety and security. We just touched on all this, but again, asset identification is key. And then the threat, the vulnerability analysis, risk prioritization. When I look at in our school district, we're blessed where we have all 4 school buildings in the municipality are on one road, School Road, but they're all kind of set a little bit differently. They were constructed during different decades. There's different issues with the buildings, but as an example, we have an annex building and the Board of Ed building on the campus where the administration, superintendent's office and everything is. But in the annex building, there's the building department. There's social services and human services there. In the elementary school, there's the senior center off on a wing. So we have all these different areas, but one of the things that kind of keeps me up at night is when I look at an outdoor playground with a chain link fence around it. We all think first for school threats, we immediately go to that active shooter, active threat type of scenario. For me, that is directly across from the exit to the parking lot for the annex building. Could somebody have a medical emergency and step on the gas of their car and go into that playground at recess time when the kindergartners are out there playing? That, to me, when we take this comprehensive approach and we analyze what the risks are, we need to think big picture. We can't just have that tunnel vision and go to the kind of the big one, the active shooter threat. So we really want to have a comprehensive approach in seeing what those vulnerabilities are and how we're going to mitigate those, and then go from there, those risk prioritization. Yes, we do our active shooter drills, we do our lockdowns, our secure school, all that stuff, but what are the biggest risks that confront us within our campuses and buildings and everything else? So we develop that plan, we lay it all out, and then we kind of prioritize, because again, coming out of budget cycle, right? We don't have that magic wand, and we don't have that money tree in the backyard where we're just pulling $100 bills off to pay for all of this. So in a perfect world, yes, this would be great. We'd have every technology leveraged, every type of fencing, bollard, we'd have a gatehouse with a guard. But is that practical? Is that practical to what our risk and threat matrix looks like? And is it practical for what we have available budgetarily within our municipal budget?
And by the way, we will talk about how to pay for all this at the end of the presentation later this afternoon.
So again, when we talk about the layered security, defense in-depth approach here, there needs to be a synergy there. The layers are all complementary, and they compensate for potential breaches. So when this theme will come up a number of times, that deter, detect, delay, respond, recover. All of these elements have to be in that plan. If we had more time, I could spend another hour just on the respond and recovery part. But we're really going to stick to the beginning kind of portion of this, to deter, detect, delay. So when we look at the kind of concentric circles here and we see the outer layer perimeter, that's important. That's our first level of defense as we kind of approach the building, the school district, whatever it is. Do we have stone walls out by the road? Do we have fencing? Do we have a guardhouse? What kind of, from the outside in, as we establish those perimeters, outer layer, kind of that middle layer, that inner perimeter, and then in schools we get to hallways and classrooms, things of that nature. So they all have different needs and requirements to provide the appropriate level of security and protection for the populations that we're trying to protect. So again, here, the outer layer. The fencing, bollards are big. I just discussed the playground situation off of a parking lot. You'll see it a lot of, in the modern architecture, you don't really see that driveway that's coming directly at a front door of a building anymore. You see it kind of parallel with the front of a building. You'll see curving. You'll see some sort of island, traffic island, something in the front there that stops that vehicle as a weapon threat. That's the way it's kind of looked at, whether it's an intended weapon or not, that a vehicle is just as deadly as some of the other threats that we discussed. So how do we mitigate that? We do that with fencing. We do that with bollards, controlled gates, the landscape architecture and engineering, clear zones and visibility. We talk about, in our town, as a very, rural area, we have a lot of woods around our schools. Is the underbrush cleared out so you have clear lines of sight? Do you have somebody in there, peeping Tom type situation, or even somebody just kind of doing recon on how they can do damage to a school or whatever else? So having those clear lines of sight where your security personnel and professionals can really see long distances and know what's coming in, that's all important. Lighting and signage. We really want to control movements. We want to know where people are and where they need to go. And signage helps us with that and get them moving in the right direction to kind of keep them away from vulnerable areas. And again, with the lighting, and you'll see with some of these cameras and everything else, we can integrate camera systems with LPR technology and other things on lighting poles. So we kind of leverage the existing infrastructure within a campus or complex to provide that extra layer.
LPR is license plate reader, by the way. LPR, license plate
Yes,
reader.
sorry about that. That's the cop of me coming out with the acronym.
We have a lot of,
It
of
happens.
TLAs in our industry. 3-letter acronyms.
Okay, now that middle layer, this is where we really are starting to get to that first level where the threat is becoming very real. Now they're in our space. So we talk about a single main entrance with a secure vestibule. So that man trap. So when you go in that first door, but there's another door layer there, if you have access control in there and somebody comes in with a threat, post Sandy Hook, a lot of our districts went out, we put film on the windows. It's not necessarily bulletproof or bullet resistant, but what it does, it buys us time. So instead of just shooting out the windows, now that film puts a barrier there. We evaluated, I'm also one of the firearms instructors, we had our glazing vendors build window panels comparable to what we have in our school, and then put the different thickness 3M film on those panels, and we brought them down to our firearms range. And the first thing we did was shot at those window panes with different firearms and calibers, but then we went to breach it. So we used a baseball bat, we used a hammer, and we used an axe, a fire axe. And we timed how long it would take to gain access through a window, similar to what happened at Sandy Hook, where unfortunately he was able to shoot out the glass and walk through the door. This film prevents that. So when you add that type of technology along with access control systems, cameras with AI and advanced threat detection, now those man traps really become an area where when we do go into a lockdown in a building, it buys us that time, because as Michael said earlier, these seconds matter. Time equals life, right? So if we can keep somebody, and I believe when we did it with the axe, I think it still took 38 seconds to gain access through that window by striking it with a fire axe after shooting at it. So that 38 seconds is enough time to activate and go into a full lockdown in a school. That's saving lives. That AI camera, which we'll show on later, that has that advanced object detection and can detect a firearm or a silhouette of a firearm or some other weapon that's notifying security, that can lock that man trap down. Now we have a low-cost solution to buy us time. And that's the key. Really, we can't prevent everything. Unfortunately, people with bad intentions are going to do bad things. But how do we buy the time that we could protect the assets in place? And then again, that inner layer, having access control, having this is the lock set on this door is not right. You should have a key set on the outside as well. But having your classrooms you can lock them quickly from the inside of a classroom is very important, again, when we go into that lockdown situation. Safe rooms and hardened corners, hardened areas. That's key, really, could be in an office building, it could be in a school, it could be in a town hall, but understanding, when you go into a room and you look around and you see points of entry, understanding the architecture. In a school, most interior walls are concrete block, filled masonry units. And knowing that corner is concrete block there, that's a good safe spot where if you did have to hunker down and you put blinds over the door so they can't see in and the door is locked, it really, again, buys that time and it makes you a hardened target versus a soft target. We don't want to be, these are crimes of opportunity, so what we want to do is limit the opportunity for bad people to do bad things. So when we talk about slowing down, when we talk about detection and deterrence, that's really what we're getting at, is how do we buy that time? How do we deter that bad person from doing those bad things in this moment to the people right here? So all of that is always in play as we're developing these plans and coming up with strategies to mitigate these threats as we go. In I've kind of hit on the active shooter type scenario, but we do take an all hazards approach. There are threats, a hard corner could be just as important in a weather situation. So understanding the different threats that are out there, and security is more than just acts of violence. So how do we provide the best secure envelope for the people within our structures and around our structures is important. People are our greatest assets when we talk about security. Just as I'm sure many of you have cybersecurity background, it's always the human element, right? That gets us, that somebody puts that thumb drive they didn't know where it came from into the side of the computer, and next thing you know, there's a virus that's affecting your server and everything else. So our staff, our SROs, our security teams, if they're properly informed and educated and prepared, they're our greatest assets in this. We can talk about technology, we could talk about different layers in the security, fences, locks, bollards, everything else, but our greatest resource in all of these scenarios is our people. So investing in the proper training, developing the proper plans and protocols is how we best mitigate threats to anybody in our buildings. Visitor management is huge. That technology has come so far now. I know in our school district we use Raptor solutions, and everybody that comes in gives their driver's license. It gets scanned. They get a printout with their name, where they're going, and then they have to come back out and give back that badge to the security professional at the front desk. So really knowing who's in our buildings, controlling those movements, understanding, hey, Michael's been in the building for 4 hours. What the heck is he doing? He was just going to, whatever classroom. Now security's out looking for Michael because he should have been there for 45 minutes, but he's there for 4 hours. So leveraging, it's one thing to just have the technology, but it's equally important that the people using it are trained to use it to its highest capacity. And these tools really, really enable us to operate at the highest efficiency possible in providing these security levels. This is a great example of the human element being our weakness. At Robb Elementary School, Uvalde in Texas, the shooter gained access to the school through an unsecured door. So they had a practice of putting a rock in the door, and then once school started, they would kick the rock out and the door would close. Well, unfortunately, the teacher that did that didn't check the door, and it never latched. So it didn't have that full closure speed to actually get the door to the jamb and latch properly and lock the mechanism in place. It just sort of sprung there. So when the shooter grabbed the door and opened it, it opened right up and access was gained to the school. So having plans in place where we don't prop doors open. We'll talk about technology that alerts that if a door is not secured, the security professional, the administrator in the building, whoever, will get notified that, hey, door 123 is unsecured at this time, and it's an easy fix. We send somebody down the hallway, they latch the door, off we go. We have that layer of security in place. And then Georgia, they had just implemented panic buttons, and a teacher saw what was happening and immediately hit that button, activated the 911 response, which was very rapid. SRO on site, they were able to mitigate that threat and save a lot of lives because that rapid notification matters. Those seconds matter. So getting the right people to the right location at the right time, utilizing technology and leveraging it to expedite that response is really critical in this day and age, and especially as we talk about AI and some of the systems in place. We went with a quick alert system in our school district in Weston. Every staff member in the buildings has their own quick alert device around their neck. If there's some sort of threat, they know how to activate it. It it immediately dispatches 911. We get a full police response, and we've had notifications go off. And really the key is it starts that response rapidly, and that's a heavy response. If your police department is going to a perceived threat from a quick alert system, it's typically an active shooter type response. They're going fast. But what's great about this technology is geolocated within the building. So if a teacher presses the button in the hallway in front of H wing room 12, that's geolocated there. So immediately part of the protocol there is, okay, Mrs. Smith activated this button at this location. We send the SRO that's in the building or a security professional to that location to vet it out while the response is coming. Because you don't want to have this heavy response if it's not necessary, because that could be traumatic for your educators, for your students, and everything else. So having this rapid notification capability along with the proper information where you can vet it properly with a human asset in the building and communicate that information to responders really is a big deal. And utilized properly, it's of great benefit to really any type of building or structure that it's in place. And we'll get into the phone systems here, but the phones have to work, right? That first point of contact typically is 911. So it's going to our public safety access point, PSAP, the 911 center, and that's the start of it all. So that initial activation that's coming from that cell phone, that 911, that phone has to work. That phone on that teacher's desk or that administrator's desk or in the hallway or in the cafeteria, that needs to be a reliable resource because forever we've all been trained that's the first point of 911 calling. And now with schools now implementing no cell phones during the school day where they have the device in some sort of Faraday bag or whatever it is locked up, we don't necessarily always have that cellular capability in our pockets because it's restricted access, but knowing that I can run over to that desk and pick up the phone and call 911 is a great asset in providing that layer of security.
As a phone guy, that's near and dear to my heart. Phones matter. And by the way, I don't know how I can go after what Joe just did. He's a pretty impressive speaker. So, often the towns we talk to, the towns and cities in Connecticut, they have outdated and unreliable systems. So some of your systems may not be perfect. Poor location tracking, 911 is, there's rules behind that now, and you may not be fully compliant, and you may have expensive and legacy infrastructure. That's common. So you may or may not know that 911 has rules now. Anyone know about Carey's Law? K-A-R-I, Carey's Law. One gentleman does. Carey's Law, maybe two of you. Carey's Law came about in a very sad story. A woman named Carey was in a hotel room with her daughter. The ex-husband came in, abused, and really hurt her badly. The daughter could not call 911 because 911 in the hotel did not work because she didn't know you have to dial a 9 first to make an outbound call. Sad story, horrible. She's the name behind the law because it was a sad story. We should be able to solve that from now on. So on-site notification. So number one, you have to be able to dial 911 by itself anywhere on anything. No more need for an access code. And then secondly, imagine you're in a hotel or you're in a large school campus. How are the authorities going to know where to go? When a 911 came from this property, it's this address, but there are 5 buildings and 50 or 100 rooms. How on earth are you going to know where to go? That's where the second aspect of Carey's Law came from. You must automatically notify the front desk and or security personnel at the facility that a 911 call has been placed. And then finally, Ray Baum Act, he was a legislator, I guess, they said you have to have a dispatchable location, include precise location data such as suite, floor, room number, not just a building address. Now, and in some cases, you can go beyond that. In our phone service, we can dial 933 to test your location for 911 reasons without bothering the authorities. 933 on our phone service tells you your exact phone number, location, the address that would go to 911. You test that yourself anytime you want. And we encourage that at the beginning of a go live with a new customer. In fact, we go beyond that. We have the ability of texting a bunch of administrators inside of a school system or a town hall facility. The people that matter in the town facility, security, admin, you name it, get a text that there's a 911 event happening. And there's even a way to click on that and to listen to the live 911 call as it's happening. That is way beyond what the law would even require. We think that's important. So how do you achieve 911 compliance? Verify if current VoIP or PBX systems support direct dialing and location tracking, the things we talked about. Configure internal and automated notifications, email and SMS. Ensure the location database is updated. People move, by the way. The extension number might move from that room to that room. Did anyone take care of updating the database? Now you're going to the wrong location. Ensure that the database is updated regularly for remote workers and desk moves. One of the problems that people go and work from home once in a while, especially in companies, not so much in towns, but you go home and no one changed anything, and now they're going to the office when you have a 911 call. One of the things we tell our folks is using a remote app, using a soft phone app. A soft phone app is an extension in my pocket. We like to say that we put phones on desks and extensions in pockets. Soft phone app. This is my extension. I call out and people see my work number, not my cell phone number. I don't want my private number going out to everybody. My extension shows. Well, the good news is a lot of times these apps, when you do a 911 call from the app, it does use your location services from iPhone, Android, et cetera. So your cell phone carrier is showing exactly where you are. Even though you're calling from the office phone number, it knows you're on your cell phone. It tracks you. It triangulates you to know where in the world you are, not just an address. It's actually finding you in a field from triangulating from the cell phone towers. That's really cool. So we hear all the time, oh, we have a lot of phones in our district, in our town. You know, we have 50, 100, 200, 500 phones. And it wasn't that long ago that we bought these phones. Nobody believes that they're outdated. Why do I have to buy new phones? So in most cases, you can keep the phones you have. Avaya, Polycom, Mitel are some examples. Yealink, Grandstream. Most technology today in the phone world is compatible. It uses technology called SIP, Session Initiation Protocol. All the phones today use SIP on the internet-based phones, VoIP. And SIP is to phones what IBM compatible was to computers in the 1980s. IBM compatible meant you can plug a printer in and a hard drive, disk, whatever. And it's all compatible because it's IBM compatible. We are SIP compliant, all of us today. That's not an issue anymore. So no need to buy new hardware to get new telephones. Another problem that comes up all the time is, we've had clients in the IT world, you folks here, that say, yeah, we don't want to share our computers and phones on the same single wire. Whatever, it doesn't matter to me. You do what you want. But some folks don't want to do that. They want a separate phone network. Now, this is a great example that the town of Southbury, they were very insistent upon having a separate network. So they have their data network for their computers, and they had their phone network. The wires for the phone network were put in 1978. You've heard of Cat 3, Cat 5, Cat 6. What was the Cat in 1978? No, there was no such thing. There was no networking back then. There was phone wires and nothing more. In fact, it was worse than that. It was 25 pair of wires run around the building and a single pair of wires split off for every office as you went along to have a dumb telephone be able to make phone calls. Nothing fancy. So guess what? That wasn't going to be easily done. We had a solution. We have one of our tricks in our backpack is a product called NVT FiBridge, which takes a single pair of wires and can throw off 100 megabit with PoE handoff for a telephone to work. We can even go to 10 gig in some cases with certain kinds of wires. That's crazy, taking 1978 wires and putting an IP phone on it. Yay, let's go. We did win that deal, by the way, and they love, love, love it. Faster deployment, avoid costly rip and replace. Soft phones are flexible. iPhone, this computer, my MacBook, is my telephone. I don't usually use the desk on my phone on my desk. I do sometimes, but this is better. Everywhere I go, I have my extension with me. AI for phones. It's happening. We're finally getting AI technology. So you can do call recording, the calls that go into your department. Maybe it's the finance department. Maybe it's the tax assessor and tax collector, which tends to be a little bit of a tough environment for the town people. They're like not happy with their tax collector. I get it. Well, you can record the calls going into those departments, and your call is being recorded. It's life. Get over it. And you can transcribe those calls, which is nice to see what's going on. But you can then have call summaries being given to the department heads and even do sentiment analysis to find out when somebody was happy, sad, angry, frustrated, and quickly identify where there are problems and listen to it and follow up and see where there's a problem to be fixed. It could be parents in a school, whatever you need. There's technology coming where you can make it so that when you're calling, the parents are calling in to announce an absence of their kids that morning for school, that could become a transcription event given to the department that manages that without having to listen to every voicemail message. Then there's agentic AI for phones. We are working with a partner that I believe is here. His name is Chris Sandor. The company is called Readily. They're here. Really nice guy. He takes the town's website, the library's website, whatever you want, builds a complete AI brain around that, and then our phone service for that town, we will jump into his server, and then that caller, that townsperson, is getting a full-on AI experience, very polite, sounds like a real human being. You might not know it isn't, asking simple questions like, what's the schedule of dump, and what are the dump fees, and how do I get my dog's rabies tag, and when is voting happening, and all those things that you could possibly need to know. It's all answered for you 24 hours a day. And what they say is you can cut down on the number of people. You can take people from answering phones and answering simple questions to giving them a more challenging and interesting role in the town and save money and all that. Route complex issues to the right team and send real-time alerts during critical events. Now, in the case of anyone in a public facility, it doesn't have to be a town, it could be a business as well, but certainly in the towns and the school systems, having a Wi-Fi enabled call button around your neck, and they have all different kinds, is amazing. And Wi-Fi is better than having separately wired, purpose-built systems. You have to run a little transmitter, a receiver, and that's complicated. You already have Wi-Fi. Or a Bluetooth-enabled device. There are some panic buttons that are Bluetooth enabled. If you have a cell phone on you and you have your little pendant, it is always working because your cell phone is your transmitter. Speakers with probes, a propped door alarm. That would solve a lot of problems in the safety world. It is sensing that the door is open. You can set the number of seconds until it makes a noise. It's beeping. Oh, sorry. And then a number of other seconds until it's notifying the authorities in the building, this has got to be fixed. And then we have panic buttons, obviously. And then what's really starting to take off is, as Joe mentioned, a quick alert system in a public facility, especially schools, but it could be any town hall or any building, where you'll have a speaker and a camera and a monitor in a hallway. So it looks like that device in the bottom right. It is a speaker announcing what the lunch is for today. What's the food at lunch? Or what's the after-school special with the after-school sports today? But it's also, in the case of an emergency, lockdown, et cetera, it turns red and it's announcing what you should do. It has a camera right here, and it also has speakers built in. It's all three. It's a display, camera, and speakers. So a couple of those in hallways is wonderful for the authorities, like Joe and his police officers, going to a building. What are they walking into? Well, then they have cameras up and down all the hallways and in the classrooms. It's incredible. And there also can be displays on a wall in the classroom as well. Your cameras are not protecting you. It's great to have cameras, but cameras are often used forensically. What happened yesterday, this morning, overnight, over the weekend? History only. But we don't believe that that's really where things should be. Want to take over? I know when I reach my limit.
So when we talk about AI and the camera systems, it truly is a force multiplier. We don't, depending on the size of your school, you probably have between 1 and 4 security professionals in a school building and maybe an SRO or 2 in some of our larger districts. They're really not sitting there 100% just focused on that monitor looking at what could be 100, 200 cameras in a building. That's a difficult task for any human being to just sit there, be that focused and that dialed in, looking at a camera screen and trying to determine, is that one of the students, is that a teacher, is that a threat, whatever. Utilizing AI gives us a much more rapid evaluation of what those cameras are picking up and detecting. So that's key. Again, that buys us time. Those seconds matter. The cameras are watching everything. You know, barring some sort of failure within the camera itself or the system, that camera's always on and it's always watching, and it doesn't get tired. However, they're somewhat limited unless you start to leverage in some of these AI products that make those cameras smarter and more effective. You'll see, they can flag anomalies. Like we talked about earlier, the new AI detection on these cameras, if somebody is walking in with a rifle, a pistol, or whatever, it has that advanced object detection. It runs those algorithms and it sees, whoa, time out, this is bad. I have to get this information to the right person. So now you may have that person at that security desk, and instead of trying to monitor looking for that one little object, that tile on that screen will be red highlighted, there'll be a notification there, and now that security professional says, wait a minute, this is bad, let's get the right people going in the right direction. So even though we have these great camera systems that are very high definition, adding this layer of AI and then getting it to the right people really, really creates a much more rapid and effective response in mitigating threats. So again, we talk about that alert fatigue gap where you just can't be on for an 8-hour shift staring at a screen and monitoring those. I don't know if you've ever been in a dispatch center or a security center where the tiles are 3x5 and you're looking and there's littered all over the screen is this 3x5 box of stuff going on a camera. That's very difficult for one person to monitor. Leveraging AI is how we kind of bridge that gap. And we talked about it. If you look in picture number 1, you'll see there's a person there with a rifle, and that red box is around that picture. So that threat has been detected. Identifying behaviors. What is that threat doing in this moment? What space are they in? Are they in a cafeteria? Are they running down a hallway with a rifle? What are they doing? We're identifying behaviors and providing those alerts by sending those real-time alerts to the appropriate security professional. You can also have this, we have live feeds for certain cameras that aren't protected areas in our communication center where if this alert pops up in there, that automatically activates a police response to that location. So really having these multiple layers is critical in how we advance our security plans and procedures. And it's low cost. As we all know, when we do our budgets, what is it? Something like 80% of our typical operating budget is the human capital, right? So now we can have a static program on our server layered in with our cameras that other than the installation fee or some maintenance, it's always on. We're not paying benefits and pensions and everything else for the AI agent layered over this camera system. So we become much more cost effective, but performance effective, which is really the key. So that fiduciary responsibility, being fiscally responsible to our taxpayers and communities, and providing a better service, that's a home run. So investigation time. Investigations are very complex. It could be something minor or it could be something incredibly serious, i.e. Sandy Hook Elementary School. But we'll take an everyday occurrence. You have a vandalism in a locker room. That occurred over a weekend. So Monday morning, your security professionals come in, they say, hey, we had this. Now they're going to spend hours and hours and hours parsing data, reviewing camera footage, and trying to determine who may be responsible for that act of vandalism. Not the biggest thing in the world, a low-level crime, right? Nobody got hurt. However, it could be very impactful. With the ability to leverage AI in these investigations, parsing that data now takes seconds, which could have taken hours and days. And coming from somebody that manages an investigative division, it's being able to keep those resources available and not bogged down with tasks that could be replaced with something such as AI becomes critical in how we're going forward. Excuse me.
You don't want
allergies.
your officers fast forwarding for 2 hours through a weekend of video to find something?
Correct. And you miss stuff. Human error, right? You're fast forwarding it, you look over, it's on 4 times speed. By the time you look back, you missed the kid with the red hoodie on going into the locker room that actually did the damage. So being able to reduce the amount of human error in play and leverage the technology is huge. Being able to auto tag and create timelines, so important from the investigative phase of what we are trying to do here. What is the context of this investigation and what are we doing? And it doesn't have to be a law enforcement investigation. It could be some administrative issue at the school. It could be a personnel issue. It could be something as benign that happens every day in the winter. Somebody slips and falls on our front walkway. Was it an actual fall? Was it somebody that's setting up a workers' comp claim and just sort of like launched off the stairs? What are we doing? But having that ability to review the footage in a timely fashion, having the features such as auto tagging, timelines, and everything else, just gives us such a broader base in leveraging the tools that we've invested in now for decades, but we can improve it with a low-cost option and be better at what we're doing is enormous.
So, do you know what our timing is, Parlene? Anybody?
I think till 12:30.
12:30, so we have 15 minutes. Okay. Let's talk about some real-world scenarios, please, and don't forget to sign up for the cooler. We'll do the drawing at the end of the next section at the after lunch. What has resonated with you so far, and where could you see improvements in your town or city, library, school system, anything? What are you thinking? Areas you could improve. Do we have any suggestions? Anything that you've seen that?
Has anybody had a physical threat assessment conducted either on their school campus, one of their buildings, or municipal complex or anything? Anytime in the last couple of years? Done a physical assessment?
Or it's not my job on my tee. I get it.
I give you an example. In Milford, the homeless shelter is right across the street from the library. So they have a lot of situations where homeless people, which they can't be prevented from going to the library, but will hang out there, be in the children's in places they shouldn't be, or washing in like the bathrooms there. And then some of the library will sometimes like try and stay after it closes, and so there's nothing tracking them. If no one's looking at the cameras, there's not, hey, that guy went and hid in the women's bathroom and tried to stay there overnight. Like, no, if no one sees it, no one knows.
That's true.
Yeah, that's a great, and that's some of these AI, you can have those alerts. Somebody went into that bathroom for X amount of time, but never came out. Well, maybe that's where somebody's trying to sneak the night in a nice warm place, and it gives notification to people. But when I asked the kind of leading question with the threat assessment, there are resources out there for those. You can work with your emergency management director in your community, and through the Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, they'll actually coordinate doing a physical threat assessment at one of your school buildings. And that's great because it gives you an excellent template, written document that you can work off of. And a lot of this is boilerplate. So that document you can utilize as a boilerplate template to do your next school building, to do your town hall, to do your library. And then it has checklists. It has everything in there of how we can properly apply these technologies and resources to more effectively provide that secure environment for our different buildings and resources in town.
We'll talk about grants at the end and ways to pay for some of this technology. What's happened often folks have outdated camera systems, or they have camera systems that have significant expense to them. There's licenses that you have to renew for every camera every year. That's a big expense. We have technology that doesn't require that, so you're buying it once, and then we can take over existing cameras, put it on our NVR, network video recorder, without having that every year license on every single camera, and then add in that AI component so that it's really incredibly beneficial to keep you safe. Any other questions or comments, suggestions? You can also leave early for lunch. No, I'm good either way.